Yummy, yummy. Fruit salad. Yummy, yummy. Fruit salad. Yummy, yummy. Yummy, 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 yummy fruit salad. I did my time and I went out. So a few times it doesn't cut. The soul is not so vibrant. The reckoning, the sickening, packaging subversion, pseudo-sacrosanct perversion. Go drill your deserts, go dig your graves, then fill your mouth with all the money you will save. Sinking in, getting smaller again. I'm done, it has begun. I'm not the only one. And the rain will kill us all. We throw ourselves against the wall, but no one else can see the preservation of the martyr in me. Psychosocial, the psychosocial, psychosocial, the third step. Psychosocial, psychosocial, psychosocial. Oh, there are cracks in the road we laid, but where the devil fell, the secret.
Man, this song is fucking great. Alright, hold on, I need to ignore that. Man, things are taking an age a lot on my computer. My goodness. Has it really been that long? Alright, let's go back to our usual, regularly scheduled music for a second. Is my mic working? It's working, cool. What is it again? Rain Piano. Supposed to search. Let's go Rain Piano, see what pops up. And that is our jam right there. Let's do it in the background. Oddly enough, I've never heard what my stream sounds like. Actually, I have, and it's usually the music's very, very low. So you guys may not even know that there is indeed music usually playing in the background. But there is. It's for those extra high volume people, I guess. I can't imagine why you want me that loud in your ear, but hey, I ain't judging. Alright, let's get it all the way up to the beginning. I feel like this video is short. Okay. Do that really quickly, that's settled. Make sure my chat is settled. Chat is indeed settled. Everything is alright, all systems are go. Let's switch over to stream and then see if everything is going alright. Okay, so what I need to do here is I need to quickly modify the way that is. There you go. Now you'd think you do this before the stream, be more professional about this, but hey, if you expect that from me, then you must not know me all that well. I do value professionalism, but hey, this is my little corner of the woods, so you're gonna have to excuse lack of decorum. Alright, I think we are all set to go. What we're gonna be doing is a critique at the very beginning of the stream, and then I'm gonna do some fun little paintovers of some athletes. Always an enjoyable thing. If you guys are wondering what that looks like, I did a few really quick ones earlier today. Did these couple right here. And they're fun. They're fun. Really tests pure design ability as opposed to trying to render stuff. You already have fairly, you know, well, not fairly, it's a photograph, so extremely detailed things to work off of. So you just paint over it. You know, some people might say cheating, and those people probably will never make it in the entertainment and design industry. Not saying that I will, but my chance is probably higher than that kind of person. But it has been a very, very interesting ups and downs, rough couple of weeks. Most of that has not been streamed, which is why I've been away. But now I'm back, and the regular streams will further commence until I say otherwise. But yeah, I'm back in the flesh. Really happy to be back streaming. It's gonna be a fun little time. Ninja mate, welcome, man. Welcome, good to see you. Alright, so let's get to that critique, because I feel like this critique has not been done and it's been sitting in my Discord for a while, but I haven't forgotten about it, so I'm gonna get ahead and do that really quickly. So, the critique in question, what is this about? Because if you guys are ever going to do critiques for yourself, for other people, I do strongly suggest that you do, by the way. Really want you to do critiques if you can. Have you shown your Jabber file yet? My Jabber file? What do you mean? But I really suggest, if you guys aren't doing critiques yourself, you don't have to be an expert, right? You just have to know enough of the fundamentals to be able to potentially say something useful. And that's all you need to do. You don't got to be an expert in any of this stuff. Even when I see people that are masters at their craft, I always try to take the piece into Krita. For example, if I can download the piece and I think about what I could do that would change it for the better, and I apply those changes potentially and see if I was right or wrong, it really helps you vet information. That's the real point of doing a critique. You know, obviously you want to help people, but what's in it for you, you might ask? Well, it allows you to kind of confirm information in your head, see if your theories apply to a different configuration on the canvas, because we're used to problem solving in our own step-by-step basis, but we may not particularly understand, how those concepts and principles might work on a different starting point. Your Java file, your 9. Oh, I can't show the entire file. It was part of my submission to FCD, which has been completed, by the way. I finished it in the required time and I sent it over. But it was just lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of layers. That'll probably crash my stream if I try to show it. I'll show you some snippets I have of it though. It actually crashed Krita several times while I was making it, which was a problem and a half. I'll show you some of the stuff from that. Can I duel you sometimes after I study? Can you art duel me? Yeah, sure, 100%. I always encourage it. But here's some of the work that I did for the FCD entrance exam. The requirement was that I had to design a diver, or design a person and a vehicle. They had to fit together, and it was for research in the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean. So I did a lot of work. They gave me 50 hours, out of which I believe I painted for 23 hours. And I did research and reference for maybe a couple hours, and then everything else was just looking at my own work. So a lot of time went into it. I had a lot of fun, by the way. FZD with a Z in the middle. That is a school I'm trying to apply for, design school. So hopefully I'm trying to use that to bridge towards a job in the industry right after. It's a 1-year program. So I'll show you some of the work that I did for that. Yeah, thanks. Some of the stuff that I did. Some suit design stuff right there. Chip thumbnails. Actually, I can't show that one. This is the one that I can show. This one. There you go. Wait, is that the one I can show? No, I can't show this one either. I'm just fucking up on all corners. Which is the one that I can show? Oh, this is the one I can show. There you go. The other ones are not completed. There you go. Some of these thumbnails over here, and some sketches. Did I open that correctly? If I open that incorrectly, I may crash my Krita file. I may have done that incorrectly. Whoops. Actually, no, it's fine. I don't know what happened, but it's fine. More stuff. Some sketches, and some semi-final designs. What country do you live in? I live in India, so not that far away from Singapore. My final page that I submitted them, because it required every stage in the design process. I threw in some lore as well, cleaned up as best as I could with the time remaining. I spent a lot of time. I spent half my time, I believe. I spent 10.5 hours on ideation, because that's what they cared for. They didn't care about high quality design results. Otherwise, I may have managed my time differently. Did you do any complete illustrations? No, it's a design school. It specifically said sketch or line work. No illustrations. So I did not include. I was thinking about it, to be honest. I really was thinking about it, Curio. I wanted to include an illustration of this one on the top left because it was probably the weakest of the designs, and I wanted to include it as an illustration just to strengthen it up. But I decided to just put the time into coming up with more designs instead. Did you include the thumbnails? Yes, of course. They required them, so these are my thumbnails for the submission. I did a lot more of these. Do I have my raw thumbnails? There are quite a few of these over here. Is FCD in Hong Kong? It's in Singapore. Reminds me of Bioshock? Yeah, it's deep diving stuff. I actually actively had to avoid heading towards Bioshock territory specifically because I didn't want it to be derivative. So usually I work in a lot of bash and silhouette in my design process, but they said they don't want paintovers, they don't want copied work. And I didn't exactly know how strict they were about it, so I did everything by hand. It took me a little bit longer time, because usually I like to bash in silhouette stage. I didn't do that this time. But there are a lot more abstract designs that I did not include. You in here. This was my very first sketch, by the way, for the entire project. Have you ever thought of deltoid as garlic? Yeah, I can see deltoid as garlic. Yeah, any cluster muscle group was looked kind of like garlic to me. Some of these designs are a little bit way out there before I try to start finalizing stuff. But it was a lot of fun. My favorite among the batch at the very beginning was this one. Really, really enjoyed it. So I did this very Anthony Jones style. The issue is I need to dissolve a lot of perspective, and I'm not a perspective-based like drawer very much. Like I don't draw in perspective. I can paint in perspective, but it's difficult for me to just straight run perspective. So I did not do thumbnailing in line. I just did not feel comfortable, so I didn't do that at all from the very beginning. I didn't even try. I just knew myself fairly well enough to know that I would not get too far. And I didn't want to do it in silhouette, because usually I work in pure silhouette. But because I wanted the end result to be functional, it's difficult for me to add function on top of silhouette. It's a lot of problem solving to do later on in the stage. It's easier to design the basics, the large elements, but always have an issue with adding little details. Like for example, on my final designs, like I have hinges and I have bolts, and all of it needs to make some amount of sense on the robotics, for example, where the camera moves and stuff like that. So I did have to do a few little problem solving things across all of them. How they get out of it, for example, how they withstand stuff. So in that respect, I spent a bit more time on thumbnailing, and I knew that they care about thumbnails overall over everything else. So I really tried to make some good ones, some presentable ones, because otherwise these would be in my usual design process, at least the way that I was taught. I would do this in a minute and a half, but I ended up spending about 25 minutes on each one. Do you have Scott Robinson's book? Yeah, I have Scott Robinson's book. I do go through it whenever I can. It is a lot of information to take in, but it is fun. It's always fun to learn. I'm gonna deep dive into Scott Robertson if I get accepted, or even if I don't. You want the book? DM me. DM me. I'll hook you up. Nuts, how's it going? I painted nuts yesterday actually. I couldn't sleep. You guys want to see? I'm not gonna post this anywhere because usually when I have to show stream like GIF pieces, but I don't usually do a lot of this kind of stuff. Nuts right there. At least my best attempt in... What was this? This was... I time everything, so I should know. This was an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. Live there, how's it going? A quick portrait. It was nice doing a portrait after all of the design work. I spent the best part of 50 hours trying to get this design work out there, so it was really fun going back to painting. I was having a really shitty week with artwork in general. A lot of life stuff that I don't bring to stream because that's how I run stream, but a lot of life stuff happening the last couple of weeks. So painting was slowing down a little bit, but I was glad to get back into it. Thanks, Vivir. I'm showing off some submissions to art school. Appreciate you. How do you draw mech robot forms in shape? Yeah, I can show you actually. This might be really useful. Let me pull up my canvas really quickly. Up here, we're gonna do some paintovers later, by the way. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I really enjoy paintovers. If you want to see an example of what that looks like, it is right here. Here are a couple of them. Just quick little designs. You're Indian? Yes, indeed, sir. Indeed. From South India. Grew up and raised. And educated here. So this is basically the idea of doing something quickly. Also, I need to do something very quickly here. I forgot that I was going to be streaming, and I haven't streamed in a little bit of a while. Like Red Indian or Curry Indian. It's dots, not feathers. Dots, not feathers. So ding-a-ding as opposed to ba-ba-ba. Alright, can I say that by the way? I can say the ding-a-ding part for sure. I feel like I've earned that right. The other part, not so much. I feel like I've never been on a reservation. Native Americans are cool though. Let me tell you, if you ever want to get cool concepts for design, Native Americans got some great stuff. Also, I've been binging on Feng Zhu. I think the entire time I was painting, I was watching something Feng Zhu related. Just in the background. Thankfully, thanks to you guys in the stream, I have 2 screens now. So I have my display tablet and I have my laptop. So I usually put something on in the background. Generally I like to paint in silence, but I'll make an exception for like art related talks and stuff. Better now. Sorry, I have to reduce camera size for lag issues. Let me see. Your accent does not sound Indian. I'm from Delhi. Dude, how's it going? I love Delhi. Been there a few times. Yeah, I don't sound Indian, unfortunately, for some reason. Yeah, even when I get tired. I get British, Australian, Egyptian, Mongolian, I get all sorts of shit. But this is just how I talk. I used to speak really, really quickly when I was younger, and everybody just asked me to slow down. So when I slowed down, this is how I sound like. Usually it was like da 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 da, and that's how he spoke. I don't know. I grew up way down in the south. I grew up in Kerala a little bit. Welcome. Always good to have more Indians in here. I've been having more and more of them lately. Met Prem, he's an artist. And Wabachak draws in here, he's Pakistani. Azhar, he's from Bangladesh. Like a lot of people recently. We seem to be hitting India now. People are trying to pick on, I feel like, a little bit. It's like that transition. Everybody was playing like CS 1.6 and then suddenly everybody's playing CS Source in like cybers and stuff like that. So I'm assuming it's a similar thing. Okay, so the question was, how do I draw mech shapes and stuff? It's a good question to ask, because usually when you gotta draw pipes and stuff, like solving the perspective is difficult. Like, is this really perspectively accurate? Like, are those two lines proper in perspective? Like, do they make all that much sense? And it's difficult to kind of solve complex forms, like drawing a box in perspective can be kind of really hard. And it's difficult to make changes, okay? It's difficult to make changes. Because if I was to say that this line is out of perspective, I gotta do a few things over here, a few steps. I have to erase this line, well, I have to erase it in a different way. I gotta erase this line and then I gotta redo it, or I gotta use liquify. But what I find is very useful when you're doing any sort of concepting is that you can block things out and then solve the perspective with shape and then just draw over it, which is what I do for a lot of my perspective solutions. So, for instance, if I was going to draw a mechanical arm, for instance, let's just draw something random, okay? So, a little squiggle right there. And then we solve it a bit mechanically, right? So we solve it. So we'll just say that there's a shape right there, there's a shape right there, shape right there, right? And then we can kind of play around with stuff. So now when I erase stuff, I don't lose out on all of my information, because if this was just line, I lose out on the entire side, the entire contour of that particular arm. But since it's in value, I don't lose it anymore. I can just shape it like clay. So now I can start shaping stuff up, right? So I'll maybe add something over there, something over here, and now I get to play. Bazaar, how's it going, man? I've been trying to lurk in your stream as much as possible, but I've been really busy. I have finished my application, rather I finished my test for Feng Zhu, so hopefully I get in. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay, so stuff like this. So really, really simple. I'm going to draw a very, very simple arm here. So I get to make modifications really, really quickly. A very large brush, right? So we'll add like a claw or something in the back. Something like that. Okay, so now that I'm working with like basically with a lot of clay and stuff, with these large like round brush strokes, right? I'm using a round brush with low opacity. So now I get to go in here and I get to just draw around what already exists, and it really helps the speed of the problem solving here. So I can even be loose at this stage. How's it going, Jackson? Solomir, thanks for the sub, by the way. How's it going, Bazaar? Good to see you. Alright, so we can start like this. So basically when you're doing robotics, there's a couple of to and fro things you gotta think about. One of the first ones is understand like how to make good joints, for example. Like there are a couple of joints that are really, really useful to kind of know. One of the first ones that you're gonna have to learn about is like hinge joints, like kind of figuring out how things will hinge against other things, right? So stuff like this is like really important. So like a hinge joint which goes that away, like that, for example. A rotation joint which is as simple as just doing this, for example. Just a very standard kind of rotation joint. Just add a bridge there to say that okay, there's some room for it to maneuver through. So a rotation joint. And then you can have even crazier joints. For example, you can have like ball and socket joints, for example. That's the kind that we have in our arm, like omnidirectional joints, stuff like this is not entirely uncommon. So basically a way to kind of fill in the blanks, right? Hard surface design magic? Yeah, hard surface design is not easy. Go ahead to the dock. Just came back to drop the sub. Have a great session. I'll be back when you come back, hopefully. But thanks for the sub, dude. Appreciate that. So once you understand hinges and how to kind of go crazy with them, see these are all out of perspective, by the way, because I don't usually do this with a lot of sketchy lines, or I just use it with that's how I like to think. So once you kind of figure that out, then you can just go in there with your design and then figure out how everything kind of applies, right? Because I can just about see it. And if you need more clarification, you can use a bit more value, and you can maybe sort of figure out where these forms are. So maybe I can throw in a top plane like that, kind of solve some of the issues that I have here. And you see, I get to kind of throw things around. And I think, that's what I'm showing you, man. I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for you. You gotta know this before you do anything else. And I guarantee that if you're struggling, this is part of what you're struggling with. So hopefully you're paying attention. Just stuff like this. So now I have some plain information in here, and now I can just go crazy, right? So now I can just say, all right, so we'll get a line right there, let's say. We'll get a line right there, get a line right there, and suddenly I have a nice three-dimensional form. Of course, I'm not thinking too much about how the perspective is going to shift, but something you should think about if you're doing something like this. I'm just not going to do it because it's always annoying, and I've drawn enough in perspective recently. It's always bugging me. So just stuff like this. So I'm just doing it really basically right now. So we get this kind of Lego-ish building block sort of stuff, and then it's up to us to kind of figure out how we kind of justify the joint movement, right? Joint movement. Because we've got to have a little bit of articulation in here. I find it's really helpful to not do these with sharp edges. I think that beveling things and rounding things in this stage is like very helpful to kind of sell the idea. I think that when you do this with very strict line and you do everything really hard surface, it is a little bit more, like a little bit difficult. When you do it like this, for example, I feel like it's just a little bit easier when everything is a little bit beveled. So of course you're gonna have to figure this out in terms of exactly how everything moves. For instance, over here, how does this particular joint interact? And I would say an example to solve this particular area, because you have to solve it. Solving this particular area would be like this, for example. Think about, I'm gonna do this like step by step instead of in one go. But think about this as something like that, for example. I'm gonna solve the perspective a little bit. And let's just say that this is the joint going through. So what's happening over here, I'll do it in paint first, is that we have two hinges right over there, hinge 1, hinge 2. Or it's one big hinge, like two little parts of it. So that's right there, and then this goes in between. So again, I'm using a bunch of paint just to kind of help me along the way. So that's going in there. Sorry for the noise, by the way. My neighbors like to drive very loud motorcycles. So right over there, and then I get to just play around with everything else. I always flip around, gonna help me with the if anything is being skewed, and then you just gonna fill in the blanks right there. And the same thing up top, right? Same thing up top. You can just, for example, when you're doing this in shorthand, for example, it's what I like to do is just kind of indicate this really quickly, like there's something happening there, there's some joint, and most of the time, people just pick up on it, the fact that it's a moving part. But if it's like a really in-depth drawing, then you can't get away with this. Like this is like super zoomed into an arm, so obviously some of the perspective is going to start bothering everybody. But that's how I like to think about it. So once you do something like this, for example, it becomes way easier. So again, solve it with paint first. You throw the paint around, you solve the perspective with the paint, and then you just paint around it like that. And you can make a lot of like really complex forms. Sorry, my line weight's always buggy when it's lagging a little bit. You can make a lot of complex forms like this. That's how I like to work when it comes to like figuring out all this stuff. I'll obviously put a bunch of rotation joints in there, otherwise things are not going to make much sense, especially when you start with a very loose gesture like I did for this particular one. So rotation joint is just this much, by the way. You don't have to do too much about it. Just throw in a couple of seam lines and fill it in if you like. And you can even throw in a little bit of like a gap in between, like that, for example, to sell the idea wherever appropriate. And then people go, oh, well, wait a second, that's a rotation joint. People just think about that kind of idea. So you can just quickly make an arm, and you know, it's semi-believable. The perspective is still severely off, but it is close. Doesn't take all that much to work with. I mean, I jumped through the stage really quickly while talking, but that's the idea. Just kind of work with. And obviously, I should be rounding out all these edges because it makes it so much easier for me to think about it as like round edges instead of trying to get everything super sharp. Because the sharp corners are very difficult to kind of navigate. You can make a really basic arm out of a gesture, right? And then you translate everything. Like maybe one of the painters will do, we're gonna do like a robotic arm or something. But that's the idea behind solving perspective using strokes. So a lot of my submission to design university and school had that kind of idea, and that's how I quickly kind of solve perspective. And I tried to solve it at the thumbnail stage itself. Not particularly well done, especially some of them are kind of wonky. But thankfully, they don't care all that much about actual drawing ability. They care about ideation. Obviously, with my portfolio submission previously, like before then, I couldn't just draw like squiggles, so I had to keep the levels fairly high. But it's okay. I feel like I have a decent shot at getting in. But those are some of the submissions for the design school. Is it possible to animate the power of silhouette? What does that mean? You need to rephrase that because I don't quite get you. Do you know about the greater blending mode in Krita? I find it very suitable for silhouette work. I do not know the greater blending mode in Krita. I'm not familiar. And do you like this? Hello and good night. You're great, but I'm... See Elena. Also, Elena's a streamer, so if you got a mod in here, shout her out. Is now a streamer. What the hell was the point of this canvas, by the way? Is it just a bunch of my... Oh, you know what I know now. There's a piece in there. Let me just get rid of all this. Yeah, this is about 23 hours of painting in front of me. A lot of work. I feel like I could have been a lot faster if I just skipped through the silhouette stage. Silhouette you just did? Is it possible to animate that? Not easily, no, because you would need a 3D software to maintain the perspective. Unless everything was done like from a profile, like from a cardinal view, like it would be very, very hard to animate that easily. You would have to hand draw basically every stage. So yeah, because I mean I can show you, right? Like the issue with this is that the second I do any sort of rotation, like anything like this for example, if I do any rotation like that, it's instantly going to break the perspective. So it's not that easy, especially in a complicated angle like this. However, if it's in a simpler angle, like something like this, right? If it's just that, if it's from the side, then it's a lot easier because then the perspective doesn't break, right? Because you're viewing it from one of the larger angles. So that's one way you can do it. Or just hyper simplify your form. That's why the stick figure animations were so popular back in the day on Newgrounds.com, for example. You had the Xiao Xiao stick figure fights and stuff like that. You had the Madness series, where they didn't even have any joints. There's a reason that those were so popular, is because they were way easier to do than trying to rotoscope and hard animate everything, like on every second frame or every frame. It's way harder to do that. And believe me, I know, because I used to try to animate just about every day. In Flash 5 at that time, way back in the day. I never submitted any animation because I had a horrendous work ethic back then. So I give thanks to myself right now because I'm a little bit in that department. Okay, we need to get to that crit. You're proud of me? I practice Asara heads? Good for you. Asara is excellent to practice. Always good to practice Asara. You can never get too much of it. I was looking at an Asara head when I was doing that nuts painting that I showed earlier today. Always good to think about. Well, I didn't look at it, but I was thinking about it. I love stick figures, it's entertaining, yeah, because the amount that you can do with it is strongly increased because you're not facing as many design limitations. That's a very strong thing to think about, by the way, is that the more complicated your setups are, for example, the more complicated everything is, the less you have a chance to strongly modify things. Like look at a game like The Binding of Isaac, for example, really simple delivery method on how they deliver the game to you, which lets them really focus heavily on like how much synergy you can put in, how many item varieties you can put in, how many cosmetic variations you can put in, because the amount that actually goes into it is not that much. So not much to modify, not that much to render. But take a game like Warcraft, for example. I mean, you know, even still a little bit simpler than what you would expect nowadays, but it's still fairly complicated. And then move all the way over to like really complicated games these days. It takes a lot of hours and a very large development team to be able to make those changes quickly and deliver them to the user. Alright, so we have, actually I know the reference for this. I'm not going to go hunting for it, but I'm familiar with the reference. I did paint this a while ago myself. So this comes from, who does it come from? Actually, the Discord. Also, you are welcome to submit crits, by the way, at any point. I watched Alan Becker? I have watched Alan Becker a while ago, yeah. Good. This is from a man named Yassine. I believe he found me through Instagram. He asked a question about, based on all the furry dog studies that I've done, and paintings, straight up. He has issues with choosing the brush and trying to get the hair effect. Okay, so question about trying to make your animals look furrier. A couple of things to talk about over here. Well, this furry texture, this idea of getting this furry kind of feel to your picture, it's mainly a problem of edge. So when you talk about the fundamentals of painting in general, right? We have a few things that we can play around with, right? So we have a few baseline fundamentals to play around with, and those are mainly, I'll list them all. I'll just write edge here, but I'll list them out for you. It's proportion, value, edge, shape, and color. So we get to change and like vary these fundamental aspects. Now all of this is directed by good design, just good visual appeal in terms of, you know, just the composition on the page and everything else, good lighting direction. But ultimately, what are the things you can play with on a realistic piece? Those are the things you can play with. So again, let's write it out. It's good to write stuff out. The proportion, value, shape, edge, and color. So I feel like this was a fairly exhaustive breakdown what is possible. So this question of how do I make something look a little bit furrier is a question of edge, but I will offer something that I always try to bring up every time I do a crit for edge, is that these things, these like separate characteristics of a painting, they aren't really that separate. There's a lot of to and fro to this. I'll give you an example. Let's just talk about the relationship between proportion and edge. I'll give you a very simple one. It's that something like this, for example, and something like this, they read fundamentally different, right? Even though it's still proportion, but the edge I've manipulated just by changing the way that is proportionally accurate. For example, I'll give you another simple example. It's just this versus this, right? This versus this. This tells you it's soft, this tells you it's hard. And I've really not modified the edge between any of these. These sorts of like line language, shape language, all of that stuff has an impact. So one of the biggest impacts when it comes to your edge is mainly going to be your value, right? Your value is going to have a very massive impact on your edge. Now I do this all the time, but I make it a point just in case people are new in the chat, always do this, is that there is a very simple experiment to kind of figure out true or not, which is just called value edge experiment, which is I'll just pick two values against this black, and I'll ask you which of these edges is harder, and everybody will say this one, bottom, right? But the thing is that the separation between this very slightly gray value and this dark value, and this lighter gray value and this dark value, the edge between them in terms of brushwork is exactly the same. And how's it going? I'm good to see you. So there is a quality, between value and edge that has to be considered. So before you solve the edges on your piece, I want to strongly make the consideration that you have to think about the values first. Now, if you're very good at this, you can do this back and forth, doesn't really matter. But I find that especially with the beginners, because I wasn't a beginner, I'm still a beginner in a lot of things. But when it comes to this particular thing, I do strongly say order it really well, so you don't have that much to think about. Say this is the proportion stage, this is the value stage, this is the shape stage, and then as you get more comfortable with these aspects, you can start thinking about multiple things at the same time, which is what I do right now for portraits, for example. I've been drawing portraits consistently, at least 2 or 3 every single week for the past year and a half. So I'm very comfortable right now with my level of portraiture. So I can just pump it out. I don't have to think about stuff. But things like, for example, armor design, I can't think about the way I'm going to shade the armor while I'm designing the armor. It's not possible. I'll end up with a really shitty design or shitty shade. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, the first thing I want to address on this piece, I believe, is going to be the same value. Why is it important, by the way, that we address the value? It's important mainly because of the idea that the more darks versus lights they are on this particular piece, the more I'm going to be able to start layering these lights against those darks in a way that kind of represents fur, because a lot of the times I use the fur to transition between lights and darks, which is what gives it a very kind of good, lively effect. So here's a good example of a bunch of layered fur, very simple piece, simple execution. Sounds good. But notice why the fur has an impact, right? Because if I had this light over light everywhere, it would have not nearly the same amount of impact that it would, that it does right now, because it's light over dark. So solve the values, right? Solve the values and then solve the edges. It's going to be very important, right? Same way with the portrait. Let's take the portrait that I did last night. Did I get rid of it? Let's say over here, right? So I did this portrait last night. So there's there's always going to be problems when you're trying to distinguish between different forms, for instance, right? So there's a problem over here, there's a problem over here. And a lot of the times when I see things that are sheer against light, for example, this nose is somewhat sheer against the light, this is going to be in darkness, people tend to make this edge really hard. And the way I offset it in this particular piece is that I just choose the values well enough that it's not as hard as it needs to be. And I also apply just a little bit of edge blurring right there. You see that little grain mark right there? That's a single stroke of of a graphite brush right there. That's the kind of idea. So it's really worth considering. What do you have to play with? How can you make things stronger? How can you make things weaker? It's something to really consider, because when you understand the principle of this, the principle is that, if my edge is going to be affected by my value, that's the principle. So if at all I want this to read sharper, I can do so many things to it. I can change the proportion of it by making the line weight, the shape language, I can make that so much stronger and so much sharper. I can change the value of it to make it brighter against the dark, to make it sharper, to make it harder if it have an edge. Or I can just physically go in there and change the edge, or I can do any combination of any of these things, right? And if this was in color, I could increase the color contrast, right? I could make this maybe a desaturated yellow and bring more cool values into the nose, get more color contrast in the nose, make it stick out more. So understand what you have to play with and then utilize it to push towards the direction of the piece. That's what makes you an intermediate in painting in general. Can you guess what character I want to challenge you to a duel? Can you guess what character? You said mech design, right? Oh, I don't know. Is it going to be another Ben 10 character, I'm assuming? Okay, so how do we solve the painting? Because we've done a lot of talking, but how do we actually solve the painting? Because we're having this fur issue, things are looking a bit too scratchy. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that think a little bit more about shape. Okay, so the first thing that we kind of jump towards, so I don't have the reference, I have the reference somewhere, but I'm not going to search for it, it's going to take too long. But when you're thinking about anything that's painting based, that you're going to try to depict something that you see, think about simplification. And simplification means think about the shapes that are representing your object as opposed to the object itself. Really, really important to do so, because otherwise what happens is things become a lot more chaotic. You're trying to follow a picture as a whole as opposed to trying to follow an idea of a picture, which means you're trying to raise a photograph. Raising photographs, not what you're trying to do, and it's always going to end up in an inferior piece because you're trying to match the photograph on the qualities of what makes a photograph good. But remember, photography is a very, very difficult skill, but they don't have to worry about rendering quality too much, not as much as we do. Right? They just pick the lens, pick the lighting, pick everything. Initially they take the photograph and it's done basically. You take it in a high resolution, but we care about that a lot. It's not that easy for us to just say, okay, this is the rendering and we're done. So we have to quantize things that we look at and segment them in a way that it's much more easy to present to the viewer. So in that respect, I want the shapes to be a lot cleaner, especially if you're trying to go for my style. I keep my shapes really, really, really tight. So there's no heavy infiltration when it comes to my shapes. They're usually because of how quick I paint, you can usually see exactly the shape that I'm going for example, and it's done in a very few strokes. So for example, this is probably in 10 strokes, this particular shape over here. But I wanted to kind of show you the ridge of light on the top of this paw. When I zoom in, it looks like trash, by the way. I am aware of that. But that's the idea. So really, really solid shapes. If you blur your eyes from this distance, there's some really solid clumps, and that's what I kind of want to get you thinking about. Because, for example, when you consider any of these shapes over here, there's not that much infiltration happening. And by infiltration, I mean there's not much of that underlying value kind of throwing out the overall scheme. So this is the problem when it comes to edges for a lot of people, is that there's going to be values underneath that tend to threaten the balance of the piece in general. They're going to threaten the piece looking from 3D down to 2D. Because, for example, if you have a shape like this, I'll just draw a sphere, for instance. I'll give you a very direct example of this. If I have a sphere like this has to be avoided, by the way, if you paint with texture. I'll put some darkness on there, and I'll throw some lights on here. I'll just light it from, let's say, the top. Okay, so I lit this sphere. It's done. But what happens if I throw in texture here? Now this is very, very important to kind of avoid, which a lot of people make the mistake of when they go into texturing, is that when they think about putting in, let's say, a texture on the side, they don't forget about the underlying value, and suddenly the more and more you paint this way, the less your ball begins to look spherical, the more it looks really flatly lit, because you're not respecting the underlying texture, not making accommodations for it. So what ultimately happens is that you get less of a read. When you keep applying stuff on this side, it starts to look less realistic and more flat, right? We lose that separation of light and dark. So strongly consider what the area is and whether or not the overlap is going to strongly affect the read of it, because ultimately that's going to affect the value of it. It's going to optically mix, for example, because something that's always a danger when you do it unintentionally, and it's going to affect the three-dimensionality of your piece. So let's bring that value back first and foremost. That's what I really want to do at the very beginning of the script. So we'll bring the value. I'll go kind of faster now because we've spent time on this. Let me actually hit the timer. We'll end it at 20. I'll give myself 20 more. So let's just hit this with a little bit of light and shadow, shall we? So do a bit of cross-channel adjustment really quickly. Let's maybe bring up the lights a little bit and bring down the darks slightly. Not that much though. That much is a little heavy. Again. Let's do it this way, in fact. Let's just keep the lights where they are. We'll tone everything else down. Okay, we'll get rid of that for a second. Do we need to get rid of that? Maybe not. Maybe I'll just mask from here. Obviously Ben 10, yeah? You have in mind. Bring that background back in here. Okay, now quickly check. The thing is, I don't get too much of an effect of lighting on this piece, so it's hard for me to even try to strengthen your lighting because everything seems really kind of flatly. Like if I look at the side of the face, for example, top right. Let me adjust this a second. Wonky. There you go. So, for example, if I just color sample this on the left-hand side, that is a light portion on the left-hand side, and this is a light portion on the right-hand side. There isn't that much of a difference, right? So I have a very slight difference right here. It goes from dark to light, but that difference is so negligible right there. That's your dark to light separation. That is a problem right there. We can't have it be this direct. Even if you see it that strongly, that not strongly, but that weakly in the reference, I strongly make you consider maybe up that contrast a bit more to make a stronger piece. Right? It is something that's worth considering. But for now, we'll just we'll keep this. Let's say light's coming from top right. Let's say so. We'll strengthen top right. Top right's right over there. Get the beautiful bounce in the nose. So top right means I get a little bit over there, a little bit on this cheek right there, for example. I get a lot on this ridge right there, and I get a lovely, lovely shadow down there. So now I have separation to play with, right? Same thing on the other side. So again, top right, so light the top right plane. That goes into light, goes into light. This goes into shadow. Have a little bit of a half tone in between because it's a curved form. And suddenly we are bringing this piece into a new dimension because now it has separation of light and dark. Those are really, really important things to consider. Now, you don't need separation of light and dark in every single piece you do because you have to consider the fact that not every piece is going to be realistic. That's up to you if you want to make it so. But if it's going to be painted in realism, this has to be a consideration that you make. There isn't a realist artist out there, artist of painting style of realism out there that does not consider this at least. If you're going to break this, have a good reason. Right forms, there you go. Maybe throw a little bit down here for unification. Throw a bit in the background for unification. If you're wondering what unification means, it means that you can't have elements heavily isolated in your piece because everything plays around with everything else in the real world and also must do so on a canvas. So if you have an extremely bright light that is centered specifically on the forehead of the dog, it's going to look really, really awkward, right? You don't want to like just forcefully push things like that on your viewer. It makes things look stranger than they need to. Okay, I'll maybe highlight a couple of these teeth over here because they look kind of cool, look kind of sick. Let's say this one over here. Okay, well there you go. So now we went from here to here. Already, now we have light and shadow in the piece. So now I have a strong basis to work on because what was going to happen before is that if I didn't have this, I make a stroke like this, for example. I just grab a default brush on Krita. Let's grab a default brush like this. And I'll just paint over. I'll make a stroke like this. This stroke has a certain amount of impact, right? Same with this, has a certain amount of impact. But when there is light and shadow on it, like this, for example, then when I make a stroke like this, for example, when I have this light on top of dark, then suddenly this stroke has way, way more impact because it's now light on top of dark, right? Especially these sharper strokes when it's overlaid strictly. This has a darker place to play around with, so now this stroke has impact and it's on top of that. Before I did not. That's something to consider first. Because now everything's a lot more rounded, which is important, right? Because it gives you a better read. So number one, value. Number two, a little bit of thought needs to go into the idea of maybe not having everything have equal priority in terms of edges. So the next change I'll make, and I'm trying to make large, big changes that are actually effective on the piece. The next change I'll make over here is that I'll simply blur out some of the edges. Now blurring is a very harsh way of dealing with this problem. I don't suggest you do that, but what I want you to do in this piece is I want you to think about using different sorts of brushes or use your brush in a different way to achieve a softer edge in some of these areas. For example, the sharpness over here, for instance, and the sharpness on the face is exactly the same. And this is not true for a couple of reasons. One is that the fur type is different. Because on the back you have these longer strands of fur which tend to curve more, get a softer look over there. On the face the hair is a lot shorter on a wolf, a lot more stubbier, looks a lot sharper, so I paint those with different brushes in general. And specifically with the art of good picture making, you always want to have a lot of the focus directed to the faces or to the focal points of the image, which is going to be right over here for this particular image, right? So in that case, you can't have the edges compete, because edge competing, value competing, detail competing, this is all things that you have to solve. So I'm just going to simply just blur that out. A very, very harsh way of dealing with this problem, but it's going to be effective. And it'll let me quickly illustrate what I'm trying to talk about. Then those from down here, quickly kind of blur that. And again, we take this piece into a different dimension because now we have edge variance, right? Now we have value variance first, and now we have edge variance. Maybe it's a bit too harsh the way I'm doing it, but here's the great thing about digital. I can just go right over. I don't have to key in my solution right there. I can just make it less soft. So one of the things that I do quite often when I'm doing quick portraits, for example, is that I'll blur something out and I'll paint over it, and I kind of retain some of that blurred edge. But it's now calculated in a certain way, right? Something like that. That affects it with your same kind of grainy effect. That's the idea. So number 2 is kind of watch out for that hard versus soft. Try to identify, and if it's not very easily identifiable, make a decision, right? You're a painter, you make the decision, and you say, okay, well, this is going to be where it is. Number 3, like I said earlier, is shape. I want to have better shapes. I want to have stronger shapes. I don't want the values on here to look like they're very disembodied. I want to think about the fact that these are layered on top of each other, so I'm going to expect there to be layers. I'll show you a very distinct, very harsh kind of way of doing this, but it's going to prove a point basically. Is the fact that you can solve things one by one, technically, if you know what you're doing. And even if you don't all that well, it's still going to look fairly okay. I'll do it this way. So I'll make some selections, some general selections like this. I'll try and retain most of your value scheme, but I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to make the shape a lot cleaner, because again, it's going to give me a stronger read. So once I make the selection, now remember I put in like 0 effort in the selections, like I've so much that needs to be done here. Like for example, that's one fix right there. Retain the basically the idea of it floating around. It's important to do these things at this stage. But I have this kind of notion right now. I'll just go ahead and I'll paint over it with a soft graphite brush, let's say. And the idea here is that I'm simply, I should do this on a separate layer. Let's do it on separate layers so I can show you before after. So I'm simply just cleaning up these shapes right over there. 1 right there cleaned up, 2 cleaned up, 3 cleaned up, right? So we're left with this. So why is this important? It's because it makes the light and shadow on the back, on the side of the dog, of the wolf, makes it much more of a decision and less of an afterthought on the piece. Because the biggest thing to concern yourself with over here is the fact that you don't want to just sprinkle in values and edges and expect the person to know what they're looking at, right? You got to really direct where they're going. In that case, having very strongly defined shapes on your canvas is very, very, very important. So we do that. Now you might say, well, that looks way worse than what you just started out with, but I disagree, because now the shapes are a lot more structured. So now I can start to finish the painting based on the structure of the shape. So we do this. I can solve further issues with edge quite easily because things are really basic right now. So let me just grab maybe a lighter value over here, maybe a slightly warmer value, like that, let's say. I'll just sprinkle this on, right? Just sprinkle it on. Let's say that's going to be a light value. So I can solve this quite easily at this stage. And then I can solve the edge if I care about. There are easy ways to do this, there are hard ways to do this. Easy way would be just to defocus the side of it, and it would still hold, but just defocus the side of this over there. That's starting to hold right there, because I'm getting that softness in there, and you can expect softness, so that's beginning to hold. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is simply to go in and start painting over it, right? Start painting in some softer brushes. Kind of resolve the edge of it. I'll just use a couple of them. I'll just keep going around, I guess, with my list of brushes here. Nothing particular, doesn't really matter to me. Look at the edge I'm looking for. That's it, and now things begin to look a lot clearer, and I have a better idea of what's actually going on here. One of the issues here is that I'm losing out on my value separation because I'm painting directly over some of these shapes. That is also easily solved, and this is how, right? So you just make a selection like that. Or rather, you can make a selection the other way around, like this. If you want to do inversion, you can just simply darken that up a little bit. So it gives me room for that overlay I was talking about earlier. Darken that up a little bit. Get that darkness in. And now we can simply start going over it again. Now when I put in the tooth of this little, of the fur away, when I put in that tooth, you can see the tooth now. Right? Before it was light on light, now it's light on slightly darker. So now you can see the tooth if I put it in. If I choose to put in that tooth, you can see it. We're looking for. Right? And the darker it is, the sharper it is, the more distinct it is. So we get to play around with it even. So nice and soft here. Big fan of that. I have that separation in there. But you see, these are like solid groups of values. I only care about the edge when it's at the edge of my shape. I don't care about the like random edges in between. Now it can be powerful to work that way, but not initially. Initially, you want to have a strong idea on what's actually going on in your piece. You don't want to just be half-started with it. Really kind of clarifying what's happening there. Strong amount of clarity coming. You know, throw in like some default brushes in there. Let's throw in some default. What's a nice little grainy brush? How about a default graphite brush? Get a nice little smooth transition over there because it's fur, it's a rounded form. You can even throw in some highlights with the same brush. Yeah, I care mainly about that edge of the shape, but on the shape itself, I can use basically whatever brush I want. Get a nice poofy look to it. Talked about this before, but as I go closer and closer to the face, always like including these very tight kind of, this is what the brush looks like. The free brush in the concept and illustration pack. Free brush. I like including these little tight marks right there. Always putting these in. It adds a dimension to the edges in your piece. It's important to think about. Also, on the concept of edges in general, this piece would be a lot stronger if you kind of consider edge in general, not just for the fur, but like, look at how distinct this nose is. In real life, you wouldn't have it be nearly as distinct, and what's more, it's so distinct that it's kind of breaking a little bit. So what I'll do here is a simple fix just to kind of solve this, is I'll just grab like any sort of standard smear brush, and all I'm going to do, I can go even more simpler than that actually. I can actually just use a grainy brush like this, a graphite brush. I'm going to simply just erode on that edge a little bit. Just a slight amount of erosion right there. That brings it into the piece. You see how it fits on the form immediately by doing that? Fits there? Because even if it is this distinct in the photograph for whatever reason, for it to like really fit on the form, and compare this edge to this edge over there, you see how strongly that kind of fits now? So of course this depends on the actual like drawing, the actual proportions, how it fits on the wolf's head. But just think about this idea. One of the most common examples of this in painting is people make hairlines so strict, like so distinct, the hairlines, and it really ruins the piece because nobody's hairlines are distinct, right? Even if it is, it shouldn't be, because it's erring on the unbelievable on a piece. It looks too porcelain, that's a problem. So kind of vary those edges up, but again, I'll quickly apply some like larger changes to other parts of the piece over here. Kind of just push in that furly element. But it's the same fundamentals all throughout, right? Same fundamentals all throughout. And if you want to do the sprinkly stuff later on, I encourage you to do so, but make sure you're doing it on a solid foundation of value, because ultimately that value is going to dictate the believability of your piece. Otherwise things are going to look flatter, and flatter things are not puffier, so affect your end result. Think about. I love putting in these like soft little lights. I think when I did this piece, I used zero actual like grainy fur brushes. I used everything with just pastel brushes, big square brushes, and I still got to look really furry just because of the way that I use the edges in the piece. Also, outside silhouette is a big deal. It's a really big deal. So this is like a free place to kind of give your audience information about exactly what this looks like. On cartoons all the time, you'll see that they end in stuff like this, for example, to tell you that the character is furry, even though the character itself is lit flat color. So that's also a free opportunity for you to go in there and put something like this, for example. Just a little bit of a hint as to the surface quality, and your brain will kind of fill in the rest. So realistic artists like Sargent, for example, talked all the time about what the importance of an edge was, and one of his biggest conclusions was the fact that, well, even if the shadow area is completely in shadow, if you had nothing but shadow, the edge will tell you so much information. Just the edge, the way it transitions from light to dark, will tell you so much information about exactly what you're looking at. Which is why on a lot of Sargent's paintings, right, on a lot of John Singer Sargent's portrait paintings, you will see a lot of the information going into the edge between the light and dark, the separation area, right, the Terminator. You'll see a lot of stuff in there. See that change over there? It kind of brings things into a much more of a naturalistic idea. So I kept it really hard, because if it was me, I would just do this, you know? Because I like to up the poofy factor on this kind of piece. So this is the change we just made. See how that kind of elevates the piece to a different direction? I kind of like the values a bit better previously, but again, we get the edge we're looking for. And so we kind of add that poof to it. Right? And of course the values can always be painted back in. Simple matter of getting like an arbitrary selection for them. I'm making them rounded at the bottom because I don't want it to affect my edge too harshly. Something like this is a fine fix for that. just like that, and then you go back in the edge, right? If you had good planning in the piece, for example, you wouldn't have to face this issue because your value would be fairly well contained already. But if you don't, you can always go back and fix it. This is digital, this is the land of cheating, so cheat away. Always, always cheat. Cheat. Not really. If you're learning fundamentals, don't cheat. Every other time you cheat. And if anybody tells you cheating is bad, then I'm going to be professional, so not to worry about that. There you go. Some ideas there. But the overall paint over is right here. So there's a quick little thing right there. That's back and forth. So we sort of elevate the piece slightly, right? Bring it into more of what we're going to consider. If you want to see my version of this piece, by the way, it's on the Instagram if you're curious. Somewhere on there. How's it going, DT? Alright, let me post this in the Discord. Start as paintovers, I think. Come on. Call this Krita. What is the time on the stream? Can somebody note that down? What is the time? I have it written anywhere? I didn't have it written there. Be somewhere over here, I could have sworn. Oh, there it is, 56 minutes. Alright, let's tag in the Discord, send this out. Armor painting. About that. Right. Sorry, but doing alright. How are you? Doing well. Doing well. I did a lot of painting in the past couple of days and it always puts me in a very, very, very good mood. Get some water and do some painting. Alright, let's close this out. Also, let me know if you want any of these references, by the way. I did not post it, I just remembered. Okay, we're going to be doing some paint overs of some athletes. Let's do Alison's talk first. Yeah, why not? We'll do Alison first. Alison's talk is a very, very, very talented pole vaulter, by the way. You should follow her. Extremely good at what she does. There was like a YouTube documentary or something about her that I saw years and years ago. Follow her career ever since. Big fan of athletes, by the way. I prefer strength sports, but I try to follow most of what I can. Okay, let's design something for Alison. I'm thinking about, let's say, so this is going to be a design exercise, by the way, if you're curious on why I'm doing this. It's good for design because I have something already in front of me and I get to just paint over it. So examples of this being done already. I did some quick ones earlier today. Quick little armor designs right there. Always an entertaining thing. Always fun when you have a lot of colors to play with as well. Like colors and lights can make an interesting looking finish. Alright, let's do something for this. I want to make this into like a guandao, I think. This staff that she has. Well, it's a pole vault. And I want to give her like traditional Japanese armor and give her like a cool mask. Let's do it. Alright, let's set the timer for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Let's see if we can make something cool. Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's go. I'm using a round brush for most of this, by the way. Also, it is a little bit jarring to have to go back to all this line that I'm dealing with, but it's fine. So, traditional Japanese wear, right? What does that entail? Always an interesting design problem to kind of figure out how to make things fit. So, let's just add some strokes initially to kind of figure out how everything's going to fit on here. I have some knowledge about this sort of armor, not too much, but I have some. I'm just going to quickly get some initial drawings out there. And the nice thing is I get to just draw on top. I get to sample colors and stuff. So it gives me an end result really quickly. So I can really kind of confirm or deny, or you know, just confirm or disprove whether or not I know certain things about certain ideas. It's always helpful for me. Let's start right there. Give her a very traditional kind of neck guard right there. I'm gonna give her a mask, obviously, because masks are cool as hell. I'm gonna take some dark from her pants, so that'll keep it in the same value space. I'm not quite sure how I want to design this mask just yet. Because usually I do the full mask designs, the full face designs. I don't usually do the ones with the nose. I don't think the nose is ever exposed, so we'll do a quarter mask like that. Put it around her face like that. I'm gonna get really Mortal Kombat up in here, I think. We'll give her that much right there. Get some dark from the hair really quickly, because I like to just sample values off of that. We'll give her some teeth right there. Give her nose. Around her actual nose. We'll give it some weight. Some lines. Right over there. I'll give it some sort of design right there, some sort of swirling designs. When you're doing this kind of work, right, when you're doing this kind of armor that is based on some sort of ethnic origin, there's usually a certain associated type of shape language you gotta think about to do them. And Japanese stuff, samurai stuff, has a very distinct shape language against like stuff like knights, for example. A lot more swirly, bendy, less spiky shapes, a lot more like super aesthetic, curvy shapes. So it's worth thinking about when you do something like this. Also get the perspective. I don't dissolve too much perspective, by the way, which is a nice thing because I'm doing most of this with. It's always fun. Get that done like that. Also, I had to figure out the mechanics of this pretty soon, how this actually fits on the face. It'll be a fun little thing to do. Get that done like that. Also figure out what this is going to be. Right over there, right over there. Got that red from her shirt right there. I have to think about whether or not that makes too much sense. How about like that? So you get to just play around with stuff. They usually have these little almost bells or some sort of furry element. They have these bells like that. Very, very commonly. Gonna definitely put in a few of these. We'll put in some in black and some in white. Design balance right there. That's gonna go in there for sure. I'm gonna darken up this neck because they usually have this like super tense weave basically of dense cloth that's underneath most of their armor. That's going to be in the exposed regions, like this for example, it's going to be exposed, so I have a lot of that kind of same weavy idea right over there. I don't want to go too hard because I don't want to lose out on the musculature, for example. It's going to give me a lot of information about the planes, stuff like that. It's already looking pretty good. Get some weight on here to actually show how these plates are forming. I gotta figure out what I'm going to do for the chest and the waist area. So there are a few designs that I have in memory, and I can come up with some stuff alternatively. I'll go a little bit in between, so I'll do something from memory and I'll do something original. So for the waist region, I'm going to do something that I've seen before, really old photographs. I'm going to draw in. We'll keep this white because white's a cool color. Right there, we'll keep the shadows and lights, but I'm going to throw in some. It's easier to just paint this on. Armored, so kind of like kind of beads interwoven on here. Very, very common thing that I see in a lot of armor. That, make sure you respect the values. You go darker over here if you can. There, I'm gonna grab this because it's a little bit darker. Right there, enough. How do I solve the chest area? It's gonna be a problem and a half. I don't think I've drawn too many female samurai. I don't even know if they were allowed to have them. Okay, well, let's just start thinking basically on what we know about the design language. What I was seeing on chess before, how they've been previously been carried out. Usually a lot of like these super curvy shapes, downward curvy shapes, so we'll start with one of those maybe. I'll go like that, I'll go over the breast probably. Think about the perspective a little bit, how will that come out? Let's say it starts from maybe around the shoulder area, comes out there, and it's casts a shadow and comes back down there. So nice little long shape right there, goes into the arm on that side. Fill this in with a little bit of white. Okay, decent start. We'll solve the perspective a little bit. Throw in some darks right underneath. Like that. Have it come out. So that. There we go. Now the area underneath that I can throw in some cloth, so I'll throw in the red again. Red from that shirt. Go underneath as a cloth element. And just throw a line in there just to make sure that everything is reading well. Okay, so we have this lovely plated armor on the side, this pauldron right there. Very, very common design I'm just going to throw here that I usually put in for these kind of armor types, which is it's plated, so 1, 2, 3 plates right there. Same thing over here, so it's 1, 2, and then 3. It goes like that. Goes like that. Easy enough, and then you just fill it in like that. Right? So that's how I quickly kind of get a good plate armor situation going on. I'll match the white, I think. I'll match the white. I'll leave the red for accents throughout the piece. Going light right there. Going light right there. Really, really quickly get out there. And I want to throw the red on for these spikes right there. Spikes coming off of it. I haven't really solved the perspective one just yet. I just know that they're going to be there. And of course, I'm going to throw in some little indications of plate. Same thing back here. You see, I'm being really loose with this. I'm not trying to like linger around too much because again, I have a lot to do. Cover the whole piece. Right over here on her shoulder, I really want to highlight the fact that her shoulders explode. I think that looks really cool. We'll do something like that right over there. And back here, I did say it was going to be dark, so we'll keep it dark right over there. I think it's a good area of rest for the eyes. Keep this right over there. And right over here, we get to show a little bit of information about how everything attaches. To have the same kind of idea, maybe you can throw in a few more shapes in here. But now we can throw in some bands. Maybe use a red, I kind of like the way the red looks. Let's throw in some straps right there, some information about how things attach. Always good to ground your designs in reality. Very, very interesting, very, very useful thing to do because, you know, filling in space is sometimes rough, sometimes hard. So, way, way easier if you just justify stuff as you work. Something like that. There you go. Coming out pretty well. Let's just say this mask kind of, maybe it doesn't extend all the way through, maybe it just stops right over there. Bring back some of this over here. And over there I can kind of show the way the mask attaches to the face, maybe it goes around her neck. I'll pick like a dark to do it. Maybe I don't want too much red on there. Pick a dark to do that. Goes around her face like that. I'm gonna highlight some of my designs here. On the face. I'm not fully committed on anything just yet. Darken up the mouth. Go. Don't want to give her a hat. Oh, we have time to give her a hat. Let's do that really quickly. So what's the perspective going to be on the hat? We'll pick this dark over her hair really quickly. Bring on up there. Get the hair probably down. It's going to be in a bun inside. It's going to be something like that, for example. It goes behind, goes all around. So it goes behind and all around. We'll mask out the face really quickly from that selection. Right over there. Right over there. Some of the fine detail, and it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of overlap. In there, put that in here. I feel like they got the Darth Vader design from Samurai Armor, almost 100% sure. Okay, I'm gonna have to solve this a little bit. I don't entirely know what I'm looking at here, so again, just throwing some lines, figure it out. So I know that the armor goes like that from the front, so I expect that from the front right over there on both sides. Over there, over there, I expect that. And I expect it to flap up, very, very typical of the designs. We'll flap it up curvy like that, so I expect a flap up right over there, right over there. It's going to break the silhouette in the back, that's good. Silhouette breaking is very good. It's going to actually block out the area that I previously painted on, that's very useful for me. And we're going to have it curve in, so this is going to be covered like that. It'll be covered right over there. A lot straighter than it was initially. I don't tend to just erase stuff, I just paint over if I can manage it. Paint it back there. And this exposed part can actually go red. Exposed. Very, very common thing that I see on just about every design that I've looked at. and we have one element up here and one large spiky spike element up there. So we'll give it like a kind of traditional thing that I've seen before. Goes into this ring like that. That looks a little bit strange. Looks actually like the hair that Angie was painting earlier today. We can keep it a little bit more low-key, I guess. Make it red, I think. Give her the horn beetle version of this armor. It applies, but we can do it anyway. We'll throw in some lines right there. Justify some of our design right there, make sure it's a little bit more solid. Give it a bit more weight, some more volume. Throw in some negatives right there. Give this a little bit more. I can also make this kind of plated as well. Plated there, plated there. Enough. A couple of little balls right there. Got ourselves a helmet. Oh, also the front comes out. Forgot about that. Comes out like that. A little hat. There you go. Now it looks fairly airtight for us. Alright. Run some line weight in a couple of areas just to make sure that things are a little bit stronger. Alright, so now we're going to detail the sides. We'll give her... Oh, let's not do the red line. We'll give her a belt made of rope, because that's how it's usually made of. I'm going to hold her katana. I'm not going to draw, because she already has a guanda, or stuff, so I'm not going to draw that. I don't really mind. I don't really mind that the midriff is exposed there. We can maybe leave that design element in there. Things fairly open-ended. This over here, for example, the arms as well. You can leave that fairly open as well. Like I like the idea of things being a little bit more exposed. Gives me less things to paint at least. So that's good for us. Also, I like the juxtaposition of things being not painted and things painted. Fun. Eric, how's it going? Yeah, I've been bogged down in a lot of submission work, but I'm back indeed, doing well. A lot of live stuff, a lot of submission work, but I am done with just about everything that I need to do priority-wise, so back to stream. Let's throw in this little side guard here. 13 minutes in. I kind of like the idea of using the black of the pants, to be honest. I like the black pants, those are fun. That way, and I can do it in the rest of the design really, really quickly using selection. Like that, like that. We add a bit of a gap in there. You can just continue really quickly, just like that. And on top of that, we can just throw in a little bit of value. Just that quick little look that we're looking for right over there, and then we can think about stuff like perspective. Let's solve that really quickly if we can. And if we can't, it's not the biggest deal. So these ones are connected underneath most of the time. So I don't need to show, I can show bolts from the construction of it, but they don't need any fastening bolts here. They're actually quite mobile. So that's not a consideration to be made. So again, it's important to be able to justify design when you're doing it. Really, really important. And I'm not very good at it, but I do try and think about it whenever I can. Also, the shape language also is a question to kind of think about here. I don't know if our shape language is consistent. Most of the time, the shape language is solved for you because of the fact that most of us are going to be using designs from existing cultures, for example, and that's usually solved already for you. Everything looks like it fits together because it does literally fit together in real life. It's what we base our shape knowledge off of. Let's actually make this entirely black. It'll help me complete. That is good. Give her an insignia right underneath this. It is good because I don't have to draw it then. So you can add stuff on top of this as well to maybe like justify it a bit more. Like we can add little marks that go from armor to armor. Let's say it's got top fastening, even though I don't think I've seen top fastening armor like this before. I mean, it's believable enough, right? It's not super form breaking, so we can do that really quickly as well. So the form is tight, just like that. Nice and easy. Okay, well that's going fairly well. Add in some more information about exactly how this is fitting in. Once you have like the idea of stuff in, it just becomes a problem of just justifying it, justifying the perspective, making sure the drawing is clean, the idea is well developed for other people that are looking at the painting. A lot of things to solve. That is a not fun part about design. Fun part is just coming up with stuff, right? Ideation. There. Are you turning a pole vaulter into samurai? Yes, indeed. Well, there's not going to be a pole vaulter any longer because he's going to have stick-looking guandao samurai staffs. Well, the ones with the blades at the end of it. Alison Stock, by the way. Alison Stock is a very, very good athlete. Gotta say, a pair of abs would make me very jealous. Quickly ensure that the design philosophy is not being too lost. I can make this blue, but then it sort of slightly ruins the color space of the piece. You know what? I'll bring the blue. I'll bring it back in here. Let me just sample the blue, and I'll just paint it somewhere over here. I'll bring it back later. For now, I just want to keep this fairly low key. I don't want to distract with the color contrast down here. Keep that, maintain the perspective a little bit. Yeah, how's it going, Bob? Good to see you. Well, since I've been streaming, I've missed you. Do that really quickly. Okay, well, let's just figure out something that's not super form breaking for this edge of the spear right there. That seems okay. So now that I have the selection's okay, I can start playing around with stuff. How do you make something look metallic? You need reflections, so include reflections. And there, for example, I have to have something on the top of this metal to make it rigid. We include something on top of here. I can use a red for this purpose. Fasten it to the pole arm over there. Include a little bit of this reflective light up top, down there, for example. Fill out a hole in the middle. Let's say there were a shot of metal. Just to kind of show you the plane a little bit better. It exists already. That. And some lines just to justify a couple of things. We lock that in, maybe the design a little bit. We just lock it in. I don't want to paint a little bit further just to ensure the perspective isn't too wonky. I'm not out to solve every perspective issue in the piece, but maybe not too wonky. Been doing alright, I guess. How you guys been? Doing alright. It's been a rough week for your boy, but always we all endure. Everybody's got their problems. We're trying not to do mine on the stream. There you go. But like Wanda, not particularly my my best work on that spear. I think I'm better at designing that than would tell you. Oh, something like that right there. Oh, I lost my blue. God damn it! Where was the blue? It's gone. Wait, I'll sample it from the original. There you go. Because I wanted to do this. I'm gonna add some cloth right there. I really like some sick cloth elements in your piece. Hell yeah. Oh yeah, she's got a killer set of abs. All pole vaulters do. Pole vaulting is not easy because you're gonna manipulate your entire body. Can't do that if you don't have a solid core. Go. 20 minutes. I think 20 minutes is about as far as it'll probably take this. Work. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do something a little bit quicker for that. I want to give her, since her arms are exposed, gotta give her those sick fucking tats, man. I gotta give her some. Okay, well, I'm gonna butcher these tattoos because I don't design tattoos. Something that looks like fairly. This occupy is what I'm going for. Just occupied. We'll keep the swirls in there. Okay, the one on top can stay, the one down here sucks. Needs to be more swirly whirly. Add like a dragon head or something out on here. God, following the perspective on this is not fun. Any tattoo artist in the chat? Alright. No, tattoo artist quite well actually. In Kate's community was name was Ella, and she was a really like quiet person in chat. It turns out she has an incredibly massive following on Instagram, and just nobody knew about it. I follow a lot of tattoo artists, and I found her accidentally. She's doing well. Add some weight to these beads. Also, all of this is on pleated material like that, so maybe I'll throw in some ideas. I don't think pleating is the right word there. It's like woven. It's like a heavy fabric. Throwing in some form in there also wouldn't be completely out of the way, just to kind of solve stuff with form more. Yeah, it is. It was a little bit strange. Always funny when you think you know somebody and you don't. People can have whole separate lives, you never know about it. Like, I know there's a couple of cases that I can think about on Twitch itself about people just leading very misleading lives. Like there was a big scandal, especially on Creative last year about that. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about. But yeah, you never know about people. This tattoo is, I may or may not know the things you're referring to. We'll just leave it, we'll leave it with that. The internet's a strange place, just be careful. Alright. I think we're done with that one. That's our stock one. Pretty cool. I like it. That's really neat. So much more detail we can add over here. Again, that's not an easy thing to do, but we can indeed add a lot more detail to this. But I think that's sufficed. I feel like my knowledge on this particular subject matter is okay. I haven't done nearly enough though. I need to do some sketches of samurai armor, some proper sketches. But this was cool. All right, that's it. Cloth and wooden armor. They actually have a fair bit of metal on them. The cloth part is I like that contrast. And way more rope. Way more rope. You very seldom see rope on knight designs. You see a lot of rope. For example, I've seldom seen like a leather belt or whatever to hold like a katana. It's always been like a lot of like these rope kind of ideas. That. I'm gonna follow a Bob Ross tutorial digitally, so bye. See ya, man. Let me know how that goes. I was asked to follow a Bob Ross tutorial digitally for my 1,000 follower celebration. That never happened. Because I forgot about it and everybody else did. So I just didn't do it. There you go. That was a fun one to do right there. One. Until now? Well, not having now because I hit 2,000 followers. Now I'll go do something else. Yeah, I respect Bob Ross a lot. Obviously every artist really likes him. Can't say I ever want to paint like him though. I like to do. There. Definitely you're not one of those fucking snobs that shit on his work. Because there are whole communities dedicated to just talking about how his artwork was terrible and derivative. Like, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? Some people are just a little bit. I don't know. I like to think that they're just in bad places in their life. Very odd to demonize Bob Ross as basically a saint. He stole my he stole my techniques. That's a good one. He stole the idea of painting, which Bob Ross himself claimed to have invented. It's a big joke. Alright, that's our first one. That's Miss Alison's talk. That's the painting that we actually did on top of our. That's actually a pretty fucking sick painting. Like, there's a lot of information there, a lot of lack of design cohesion. I'll give you that much, but that's not bad. You know, I'd wear that on a t-shirt easily. All right, well, I always like to look at the painting in isolation. It's a real weird perspective. I'm not gonna solve it, but to think about. Okay, that's the first one. I'm gonna do 3 of these, by the way. Doesn't make for the best watching, but you know, I just wanna do it. So. Somebody asked me that question, by the way. They said, would you rather do things that are popular or things that you want to do? And also, it depends on your goal, right? If my goal is to grow my Instagram or Twitch, obviously stuff like this is maybe not the best. But again, I really encourage you guys, be goal-oriented. Goal-oriented. Think about exactly what your goal is and get your life to that. Especially if you're given the option to, right? Not many people have an option. Like, for example, people have jobs that they hate. And people are like, oh, well, if you hate your job, then why don't you just quit? Well, the answer is, it's gonna fucking pay for my bread and butter every day, right? Some things are out of necessity, but when choice is an option, think about a really straightforward way about it. Grab this. Krita has a weird bug about exporting in the build that I'm using. I need to multiple export files. Again, it didn't export again. Really weird. Unfortunate. There it is. Cool. Because I want it on the screen. Alright, let's do another one. Get rid of that really quickly. I think it's better to do things that you enjoy rather than what's popular, because you put more love into your work that will definitely show it to a certain degree, yeah. But I'm definitely not in the idea that paint what you want. Because if you want to be, like, for example, a professional in the industry, it doesn't make any sense to solely kind of cater your work to things that you enjoy, because ultimately you are very seldom painting for yourself. So again, it's really goal dependent, I think. If you work hard at that, the falls will come later. Sometimes the things you enjoy do happen to be what's popular. Yeah, so again, like I said before, like not to, I mean, what you're saying is correct, of course. But yeah, it depends on what the priorities are always. Like, honestly, I would say if somebody's like goal was to become a really, really good large streamer, like maybe the art section as a whole, maybe not the best place, right? Because of the overall viewers. This guy looks pretty cool. Let's go over him. But yeah, definitely, if you're doing something and you're going to be doing it for a long time, make sure it's something that you like doing, you know? That's just about everything. Marco Bucci said something great about this a while ago in one of his workshops. He said that, you know, if you don't enjoy this part of painting, do this. If you don't enjoy this part of painting, do that. But if you don't enjoy anything that you're doing, then don't be a painter. Do something else. Like I did 11.5 hours, maybe a little bit more than that, of painting yesterday and the day before for my FCD submission, and I mean, it was a terrible amount of work to do, but I really enjoyed doing most of it. And of course, the grindy parts are always grindy parts, but it was very enjoyable. Problem, I'll see you in a second. Alright, let's do number 2 really quickly. Set a timer, reset it, and we go. Easy enough. Let's make this guy into like a futuristic biker, let's say. So, this is gonna be a little bit of an issue for me because perspective is a thing. But we'll see what we can do, huh? I wish you the best of luck for your FCD entry. That was my dream school? Well, we'll see. Hopefully I'll get in, man. Did you ever apply? So how did it go? First of all, I want to add some thickness to this bike. Because futuristic bikes equals thick bikes. Never did. You consider it, man. Average age is like 25 or 30 in there, so plenty of time. You don't have to worry. Let's add some volume to this. Like, volume's gonna be really important. Of course, I'm gonna tronify this up because when you say future bike, then troning it up is just your mandatory. You have to do it, so we'll do it. Couldn't afford it even if I made it. Yeah, I was that way with Art Center. No problem. I'll see in a bit. Okay, we're gonna tron this up a little. So, I'm gonna have to think a little bit about 3D space. But the nice thing about this is I can just extend the perspective, and I can just do it that way. So, I'll extend the wheels like that, for example. Now I get this new plane to work with. So I can basically duplicate the perspective, or duplicate that particular shape right there on both sides. Get something that looks semi-interesting. Probably should have done this from the start. Just a rough idea. It gets me close enough. Everything else I can just solve. So we'll do it like that. Best wishes for FCD. Spot, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Thank you for the best wishes. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do hope I get in. Maybe, I mean, I probably shouldn't hope that I'll get in because it's going to be one hell of a slog. But I will be employable. By the time I get out, 1 year. It's going to be a lot of work. Like the time that I put in for my submission, doing that on a daily basis. But I really look forward to it. I can't think about what I would look forward to more in this world and putting in that amount of work and getting somewhere. Very out of this. Really cool. Because that's really what it does. FCD is not a special school by any regard. Like, it's not like the best school, but the requirements, I mean, the standard of that school is just so high that if you do happen to graduate, you would have gone through hell and back with the amount of work that you've done, right? So you're compressing 4 or 5 years of drawing in a very short time. That's really what gets you. So don't put in the work and everything. Even the YouTube channel's got good content. You best believe I was spamming the videos on the YouTube channel while I was working throughout my submission process. So it was a lot of fun. I want to incorporate more colors from this bike. Do it this way. I said tronify it up, so we'll tronify it up like this. How's your painting been going, man? Did I miss any crits from you, by the way? Because I feel like I've been a little bit slacking on my crits lately, since I was gone in the Discord. So if you have anything you want to share, go ahead and do so. I'll look at it on the stream for you. So I realized that your internet might be a little bit iffy. So almost do that on the Discord. Run. Go. Quantification at maybe 20% right now. We'll get higher as we keep working. It's gonna hit overdrive when we add those strong lights in. Well, he himself should probably be tonified a bit more, right? Let's give him like some sick features. So what's a futuristic thing that he could be wearing? Let's say this is gonna be wearing the sick Immortan Joe mask right there. Over there, let's say. Goes back into wearing something on his back. Just fill in the shape and then think about the perspective later, I guess. I want to grab elements from his character to fill this up. But the YouTube channel is very good. The FCD YouTube channel, it's excellent. Really good stuff on there. Always a nice way to add free detail is to add an element into your piece and then justify later. Watching it for years? Yeah, I remember watching it really long time ago, and now full circle, I guess. I was never like a super fan of Feng Zhu because I guess I was not exposed to his work too much, but obviously now I love the guy. A lot of time or used to into free lessons anybody could use. Super useful stuff on there. That look like Singe from the is it really? Yeah, dude, I used to main Singe, you know? I used to play on a really crappy connection from, because I used to live in India, so I live in India right now, and I had a very bad internet, so I used to play Singed back in like 2012 of League, mainly because of the idea that he had this R, his ultimate was like he got a big stab boost as his R. I used to play him mainly because of the fact that if I was AFK or if I was offline because my internet went off and I came back into the game later and my team was losing and I was behind on CS, I could hit that button, I could get back into the game, right? It's like I make up for a couple of levels and then I could outdeal people. And that was why I played him a lot. Fair character. This guy is now becoming, he's gonna get robot arms, by the way. This is not a question up to the chat. He's getting robot arms and you can't stop me. I'm gonna robo him way up right now. So he's gonna have a hinge joint right there for the elbow, because the elbow is a hinge joint. Hinge joint right over there. So we shift the perspective right over there. Do a combinate for it. Feng Zhu and Kriskov were my major introductions in digital art, kind of to you. That's really cool. And should apply to the school. Maybe you can get on a payment plan or something, you know? Or at least apply to just know if you can get there, and then maybe they can help you out. Hinge joint right over there. If you don't want to solve a joint just yet, just fill that shit up with black and then solve it later, you know? Most of the time people just believe you. They'll be like, yeah, you probably know what you're talking about. I'm actually gonna solve it. That joint solved, basically. Just needs one more thing to solve it, which is a rotation joint right over there in the forearm, otherwise break. One hinge solved. Hinge up here. I'm gonna throw in a rotation joint. And now I'm gonna do something very typical that I do for shoulder joints, because shoulder is a very, very complex joint in robotics. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cover that shit up and hope that you don't recognize the fact that I'm not drawing anything here. I'm gonna lie, things doing this Discord, got me disciplined. Not really disciplined, but better. Yeah, I mean, when you see people creating stuff around you and you're not doing the same, it makes you feel real bad about yourself. You're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I feel like Ona is very good for that reason, for me at least, because she works really hard. And when she isn't working out, I'm working out, and when I'm working really like lazily, then she's like pushing out some really good pieces. So it's good to have people like that around you, surround yourself with the best. We got a sick color scheme, man. Green and yellow, that's my jam right there. It's not really a horrible color scheme. That's your Lego builder color scheme, but it's fine. Right, it's fine. Originally, it was going to be out to Cali on my GI build to the art school, where there, since I figured it wouldn't pay for FCD being out of country. Yeah, probably wouldn't. A good alternative to look into, maybe if you're still looking into art schools, is Brainstorm. Brainstorm is in Burbank, and it's one of my alternatives. I think Brainstorm is very good. It's run by somebody that studied in art center, just like Feng Zhu. Feng Zhu studied in art center, he studied industrial design and art center. Brainstorm is one of those leading places, right? Because when you, I mean, assuming you want to get into concept art, right? I'm assuming concept art because you said Feng Zhu, but Brainstorm is a very, very good call. They're industry-focused guys, because you can learn, like you can get an MFA degree. I was actually about to do this before I did my research. I was going to get an MFA degree, but let me tell you, like an MFA degree won't give you shit in terms of concept art jobs or industry level, like illustration jobs. It will not happen. You need to understand the way the industry works, down to its very core, on figuring out exactly what your ideas are going to be. Not just presentation, not just mechanical skill, but ideas. Like, we'll talk about like something Feng said in his videos, right? Most people in their portfolios these days, they have like super generic fantasy in there. but they have zero grounded ideas, right? Like as opposed to drawing the 50th millionth orc on the internet, maybe draw something that's more grounded, like draw a ration pack from the Iraqi war, for example, design it a little bit better, like make it climate resistant. One that he talked about in his video was draw the Eastern Front of the World War II, because there's not much video or whatever from the Eastern Front, and people might be interested in that kind of art to make games out of it. Like just having that foresight is super important. Kind of understanding that, you know, most of the major productions these days, they don't occur in some sort of like super unintelligible fantastic landscape. The majority of things are very safe. They play very close to realism, very close to what you see in day-to-day life. So knowing how to do those things, like understanding those concepts, is way more important for your ability to be employed as an artist than being able to just draw generic fantasy. I would still say draw generic fantasy, right? Draw it, but think about so many of the movies that you watch, like how many of them have like just arbitrary fantasy elements to them. Like look at Star Wars, one of my favorite franchises. Most of the artists that worked on it, Daryl Whitlatch, Ian McKegg, Feng Zhu himself worked on a few Star Wars movies. He designed like General Grievous, for example, mechanics of his face. They're all industrial designers and automotive artists and mechanical engineers. Like they are not artists, at least not at the beginning. Like good designs are grounded in reality. Like not good designs, but popular designs, right? Because people might say that, oh, that sounds really cool, right? If I had a toaster that ran on sunlight and it gained sentience and it go over the world, and you think, oh, well, that's a great idea, but you know, you start to pitch it to people that will pay you money for your work. And I actually did this experiment. I gave somebody a really wacky idea, and they said, oh, that's really cool. And it was to prove a point, because they just talked about how, you know, you shouldn't do that. You should be very wild with your ideas. And I said, okay, well, you know, here's an idea. I talked about some sort of like solar powered shaver or some shit, like something really stupid. And they said, oh, you should draw that, it'll be really cool. And I said, okay, well, commissions are open, why don't you pay me for it? And they said, oh, fuck no. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, it's a dumb idea, that's why. No, it's a fun idea, but nobody's gonna pay for it. There was an artist I followed a while ago. He's called RJ Palmer. Screen name Arvalis. RJ Palmer is basically the person that did realistic Pokemon on the internet back in the day, and he still does. I used to follow his stream when he was still in art school. Really cool dude. Really like kind of one of those down to earth, get to the point kind of guys. Not like I like Twitch a lot, but let me tell you, Twitch gets into a little bit too much of a congratulatory mode sometimes for my tastes personally. I don't want to shoot on anybody here, and it's just people being nice, of course. But let me tell you, I mean, nice is not conducive to learning all the time, and I don't believe in the idea of being, you know, always like hyper excruciatingly positive with people. I feel like when it's bad, say it's bad. So he was that kind of person, you know? When it's bad, he said it was bad. Like he once called one of my drawings an absolute piece of shit. And I was kind of thankful for it, because when I showed people like my mom and my friends, they'd be like, oh, that's so nice, it's so nice, I love the eyes. And he was like, nah, it's a piece of shit. Fucking love people like that. Need those kind of people as well, otherwise you never improve. His words will always stick out to me, you know? He gave me a piece of advice I'll always remember. I give it to stream all the time. It's that no matter how good your rendering is, you can't polish a turd. I heard it from him first among all people. It's a very common piece of advice among artists, but I heard it from him at the very first time. And it's so true, man. Drawing is 2/3 painting. Is another way you can say that. Do you know the artist? So, don't know, tell you why it's a piece. Yeah, there you go. Probably important as well, because anybody can just shit on you, right? But you know, gotta tell you the why. I completely agree with that. But why I bring him up is because RJ Palmer, what he did with his time when he was in art school is he drew a bunch of realistic Pokemon, and then way down the line, like 5 years from then, he's worked on multiple projects between now and then. But guess what? Now, little movie came out called Detective Pikachu with a bunch of realistic movies. And guess who the creative director stumbled upon while looking at realistic Pokemon on the internet, right? This dude that's been doing it for so long. And guess who got hired for that movie? Guess who can put the words Pokemon in their fucking portfolio, right? He can put, I worked in a Pokemon movie. Alright, get fucked. Talking about Feng Zhu, right? Feng Zhu calls that one of those golden ticket opportunities. the golden ticket, if you can put that kind of name in your portfolio and say you worked on it, like it's one of those big deals. Like let's say you get, I mean, I talked to Sam White about this a while ago, and the idea is that a lot of these big companies, like Activision, Blizzard, you get, I mean, everybody wants to get hired, but maybe people don't understand the specifics. So I've talked to people that actually got hired when I got them on my stream or I DM'd them on Instagram, and the pay is kind of dog shit, especially if you're a middling entry-level artist. It's really, really worse. Like a very like standard indie company will pay you better most likely than Blizzard. But I just figured out recently why that is, and that's because of the association of the brand, right? The reason they pay you less, I mean, it's of course it's bullshit that you pay you more, but people still accept those jobs and they know that, mainly because of the idea that if somebody knows you're working on a Blizzard production, they don't question your skills. They're just gonna accept you basically on whatever it is you apply for. Right? It's a golden opportunity. Like you worked on Blizzard, like you did the cinematic, like you did the lighting for Sylvanas' face in that cinematic. Okay, well, you must know what you're doing because that's one of the highest grossing companies in the entire world, right? You must know. So Fengzu talked about the idea of going to Skywalker Ranch. He was making way more money freelancing, but it's Star Wars, right? Who turns down Star Wars? Basically taking about exactly, man, exactly. They're taking advantage of the name to underpay employees. What they do. People still do it, man, because it's like you get underpaid for 6 months or however long your production is of your life, and then you basically set yourself up. So it's not fair, to be honest. I mean, it works out to be fair, but the practice itself is kind of scummy. The other half is exposure. It's kind of like that, but in the literal way that it is actually hella exposure. Like it's so fucking crazy. Like the thing to notice is like, ever wonder why artists that like, for example, looking at a Blizzard artist, because I was looking at the Diablo 4 cinematic artists, people that worked on the production, and I looked at his, and he worked on Guardians of the Galaxy before. He worked on a bunch of Blizzard cinematics, worked at Blur. So I was like, oh, why does everybody that's somebody work on everything? It's because, I mean, once you're gonna break the wall down, you're gonna be everywhere. I have a hard time denying you jobs. Damn shame that Blizzard turned into a trash company since it has such. I mean, not wrong. I just hope people are still getting paid, you know. Blizzard has gone a little bit shitter, I feel like. At least like production quality is still quite good. I don't know about the management practice. Also, I've just been painting all the way through that talk we're having, and it's turning out to be something interesting. Definitely heading into that sci-fi territory here. Yeah, God bless being able to talk and paint at the same time, otherwise my stream will be so fucking boring. Not just for you, but for me as well. I like having back and forths. One thing for me. So here's another classic example. There's a mask on the face. How does it fit on the face, right? Justify it. Free detail right there. Free detail, free information. Even if it's just a couple of strokes, that looked like shit right there. Let's just say it's grafted to his face. Right? Going on super grunge metal direction. Like a counter since they joined up. On the Activision merger, you think? It was a little bit jarring looking at that Call of Duty. Booted up the Blizzard client. I don't play too many Blizzard games. I think I've ever bought a Blizzard game myself. Actually, no, it's not true. I bought Overwatch. Only because everybody and their mother plays that game. I wanted to play with James and Ham and Siege. So I'm part of a group called After Hours. It's a fun little group, right? We don't do too much stuff on Twitch. It's more like a back-end Twitch group. But let me tell you, one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. Those guys are like, getting to know them better. That's like a really good decision by me. Also, if anybody knows who did the promotional art for Diablo 4, please tell me. I've been really searching. Any of the artists in here? If you did the research? Because I really tried earlier today. I just couldn't find it out. Like, it's not posted anywhere. If anybody knows off the top of your head, do let me know. I do care about that. I was searching on it for a while earlier today. Okay, well, this guy is looking kind of cool. The bike is distinctly not tronified and it feels kind of bad. Okay, so we're gonna just throw in some harder components here. Wolf-chan? Wolfman right there, how's it going, buddy? I'm doing some quick little paint-over concepts right now. Good to see you though. Change my LEDs, you're right. Change my lights, these are my fancy lights. How's it going, Wolf-chan? Good to see you, buddy. You're talking about art school employment and companies and stuff like that. Max cyclers? No, I'm just doing some overpaints. I did this samurai version of Allison's stock early in about 20 minutes. Did a couple of these. Where did that go? A couple of these armored athletic ladies right there. A lot of fun. Just turning a picture into a quick concept here. It's a good practice for me. Also, my head is in full concept mode because I've applied to design school just now. Also, my interview came through, by the way. It's on Thursday, so hopefully that goes alright. The metal rendering? Man, there's like no metal rendering on this, let me tell you. There's like nothing on there. We'll get into some metal rendering soon, though. I'm gonna do some armor. Those will be group study, by the way, so post a reference. These ones are so quick that I don't think it's worth posting for them. Alright, how does a light look like a light? Number one, lights are light, so you need to make the light lighter. Number two, how does the light look like a light? Well, lights are against darks, and darks are pretty dark, so we're gonna make the darks dark. What we gotta do? I'm not gonna do it, maybe. You know what the most important thing is? It's number three, that's the most important. The most important thing is that lights affect things around them. That's the difference between a light and a regular surface that has a local color. So you know the difference, right? The local color is not going to affect things too much. Of course, bounce light is going to do it. Bounce is going to do something to it, but ultimately a light source is only justified by the effect of the light source, by how light you make it. You know what we gotta do over here? We gotta do this stuff. Actually, it's gonna be really hard to solve the perspective. I'm just gonna ground it like that. He's going to zoom, he said. The first two things sound like some forehead advice. It's true. All of art just is forehead incarnate right there. I mean, this is a spinning bike. Is it really going to have like a singular dot in the middle? I don't think so, alright? I don't think so. That's not going to happen here. We're not going to deal with that kind of shit. I have a really like low expectation rendering cycle on this. Rendering cycle. Speaking of which, if you guys haven't played the Mass Effect games, play those games. Like, holy crap, I have really forgotten how clever the writing was. Not Andromeda, because Andromeda is a steaming pile of horseshit. But the original games are just so fantastic. I was watching a compilation of the writing in those games. My goodness, was the writing good. Especially okay, never mind. Don't bring up Mass Effect 3, please. Right? Don't bring up the fucking choose your own color game. I don't want to think about that. 2 is my fucking baby though. And I count like Mass Effect, like the Citadel DLC, I kind of count that as like Mass Effect 2.5. Everything else can suck my balls. Alright. Apologies for the graphic language, by the way. Very heated subject. I think 1 is a personal favorite. 1 was good. Let me tell you my problem with 1 though. 1, the gameplay, at least on my computer at the time, was so ass. So bad. Not enjoying what I was doing. I'm gonna be sucking a ball later. I'm gonna dinner first. There we go, now we get that, we're getting futuristically more accurate. Because I feel like if I'm making it so my 2 goddamn change from 1 into 1 Steam could transfer to the shit Steam that is Origin. Oh boy. Wait, are you telling me that EA? No, with their reputation? Must be thinking about something else. Oh, we went from this to this. I feel like that's pretty successful. Also, I hate this pack on his back, by the way, because I mean, I guess he's semi-human, so he needs to breed. But it looks a little bit out of place. Kind of neat, though. I like the design. Fun stuff. He has some little fins and blades. That's the racing stripe equivalent on a robot. That's alright. Also, because the light needs to be a light, you know, the finishing touch needs to be something like this, basically. Cross-channel adjust the shit out of it. Make sure the lights are actually lights. Oh, Jesus. Not that. Don't do that. This goes blam like that. Then you just hit it with a little gospel truth right there. See? There you go. You reveal it. Oh, blam. Look at me. I'm a light. I mean, if you cared enough to do such things, you can do it. But I don't care, so I'm not gonna do it. Alright. How fast would this actually need to be going that they need to need forced air? I don't know. Fairly fast, I'd imagine. Maybe he just has asthma, you know? Maybe he just has asthma. Also, speaking about realistic designs, I know there's some concept artists, or at least people that want to get into concept art in here. Think about that a lot. I'm really thinking about it. A lot of my designs are not very usable, I feel. If you consider that as any metric. Okay, well, this is number 3. Out. Asthmatic Tour de France. Shay, how's it going? Go follow Shay Face. Tremendous, absolutely phenomenal streamer, right? Doing a challenge as well, I believe. I don't know if it's over yet. I wanted to submit some stuff to it. I have so many pieces I could already just do it. But she's doing a challenge which involves drawing animals. Go check her stream out on her Discord and her Instagram. More information about that. How's it going, Shay? For the shouts. Alright. We got some more little paintovers right there. And the other ones. Company's out. A lot of fun. Pokemon? How dare you? Actually, I haven't checked out the new Pokemon game. I know a lot of people are excited about that. I didn't grow up around Pokemon too much. Well, it's because of India and the third world and stuff, but I do kind of like it. Sent an assortment of the endangered trading cards to Twitch around summer 2020. Ooh. Go check her stream out. It's all about them endangered species preservation, so help fight the good fight. Alright, number 3 in terms of these paintings. Number 3 is this one over here. Cool. What in the world are we gonna do here? I don't want to just turn them into robots, but I feel like that's a cop-out, especially after the last one. So let's do something a bit more interesting. Got any ideas in the chat? Let's see if we can do this on request. What could these guys be? We could turn them into animals, have it be like a wolf versus a lion. That'd be kind of fun. Turn them into Dragon Ball Z characters. Have it be Goku versus like Tien or somebody. Piccolo. I kinda like the idea of making them into animals. That'd be fun. Throwing some fur elements into it. It's gonna be fun to kind of figure out the anatomy on it. But we can do that, yeah. Let's do it. Right. One, let's go. With that round brush maybe for the most part. Kind of establish some good ideas. Forward. Even though DBZ kick to DBZ is fun time. Alright, so I gotta figure out exactly what I do over here. All about the animals, obviously. So, one of these needs to be a wolf, another one's gonna be a lion, so... what have I drawn more recently, wolves and lions? Well, I'm much better with lions with perspective. I've drawn them from so many angles. Yeah, we'll make guy on the right a wolf and a guy on the left a lion. Figure out like the basics. About the anatomy really quickly. Over there, he's gonna become like Doggy Kruger. I'm just drawing furry art at this point, aren't I? Furry art. What it took. This is what it cost us. Everything. Okay, let's just figure out the design first and foremost, because this is a pain in the ass. Lions do have a ridge on the brow. It's not correct to... They do not. They have a ridge. They have a maw that comes down. I've drawn the lion anatomy enough times in the stream for you guys. Idea how that happens. It's going to be a bit of an issue to try and figure out how it translates into this, however. I'm going to probably have to do much more radical of a paint. So let's go more radical with this. We'll go more radical. So I want to maintain the eyes because I want to make sure that the eyes are actually pointing in the right direction. So eyes first. So I've established the eyes right there, which is going to be really important. Thankfully, lions are also predatory, like human beings, which is why the eyes are forward-facing to look at prey. Fun fact of the day. Make sure you don't get laid with that fact. And then we go into the snout. We're going to put the snout right there. That big old maw right there goes back. Right now it's more baboon than lion, but it's alright. We're going to rescue this. Nose in there. Showing that big, heavy eyelid right there. Beautiful heavy eyelids. Love lion eyelids. Go right over there. Gotta flatten this out right there. I want to use this as a mane, so we'll mane it up right there. The back. Okay, this is gonna look really awkward if I just color everything like skin, but I'll do it just for the lulz. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad. You guys can actually see what I'm trying to do here. That dark over there. That over there. There's light right there. What's nice about lions in general is that the markings are pretty much common across the board on exactly how the lines are marked. So you have a very specific pattern of dark versus lights. And of course there's some variants beyond that, but those patterns always exist. So it's a good fallback strategy. If you're painting a big cat, you know certain things do always exist. Okay, the big thing I'm going to put in here is that masseter muscle. Masseter up here. Beautifully large muscle group right there. Controls the opening and closing of the jaw. Important to put that in. Have some light up here. Top facing right there. Top facing brow. Brow curves around. They have those big thick eyelids that live on the planes. There's not always that much shade available, so therefore eyelids accommodate for the fact and they cover a lot of that head, a lot of that eye. Can't look at direct sunlight for too long. Alright, so ears, I've got to figure them out over here. Usually I kind of find the ears using the eye of the line, so I trace back over here. And ears should be something like over there. A liony ear, I think. Liony ear if I ever saw one. And then we design the mane really quickly. Goes there, mane goes there. Nice thing about the mane is the mane gets darker and darker as the lion gets older. So if I have a dark mane all throughout, that means this is a very old and experienced lion. Been through a ton of fights. I'm like trying to draw a tiger or something, Pepe laugh. Tigers are kind of problematic to draw, especially if you don't know what you're getting into. Like I drew 4 or 5 tigers in one day, and that 5th tiger was so much easier than the first. Not because of the fact that I had more practice, but I kind of understood what I was getting into way more. Because when you have that much amount of specific detail on an animal, it's really important to kind of consider that at the very beginning. People make this mistake and think, oh, it's fur texture. I can do it later. No, do not do that. Do it at the very beginning. I think I put in the stripes in the first 10 minutes of every single one of those paintings. Very, very good idea. Put the stripes in really early. I'm gonna deviate brushes a little bit here. I want to get some quick and easy Japanesey fur texture. Looking really awkward with that skin tone, let me tell you. I'm not the only one that's off-put by that, I'm sure. Tiger's an actual nightmare to draw. Yeah, I've drawn a large number. Very fun though. And their markings start to make a lot more sense. Also very consistent, the markings on the tiger. Very consistent, just like lions. I've got there's some variants, but it's less than you think. I'm gonna take some creative liberties here really quickly, because otherwise this painting is gonna take forever. Oh, I forgot which brush I'm using. Not the right brush to do something like that with. I know they all have very least as eye marks on their ears. Yeah, another big one to point something out is that a lot of the cats, in fact, I think just about every cat has this marking on the brow right there. They have this marking right on the brow. Very common. Okay, this is also a technique that you can put in little fur, because you throw in the highlights first and then you just break the highlights with value. It makes you look like you can draw better than you actually can. Which is basically the summary of my entire art career. I just trick people into thinking I'm better. But I'm really not. Yeah, you got a lot of fundamentals being applied right there, but fun time, to be sure. Looks good when you drew it. Does it actually look that way, or do you just draw well? A bit of both. You can cheat easily. Several ways of drawing stuff, and not all those ways are exactly information dependent, let's say. That's kind of cool. God, his skin tone is really fucking with me though. I gotta say, oh my goodness. It is haunting. Also, the way that his neck attaches to his body is something else. That's something else right there. That's some next level stuff I'm just not used to. You know the nice thing about this? I can turn his hands. No, Spot. We don't push out. All right, we don't push out. We're gonna take this idea. This is gonna be my swan song to the furry community right here. Right? This is gonna be my debut as a furry artist. I can't fuck this up. It's my once in a lifetime opportunity. Okay, we gotta lineify his arm a little bit. I feel like. God, it really sucks having the skin textures. I do like Hotline Miami though. I think it's a great game. Alright, we're gonna get some paws in here. They got monies? They do have money. They got mad money. If you want to be an artist and you don't want to work as hard, be a furry artist. I'm not saying that furry artists don't work hard. They do very good work. But like, comparatively, I mean, it's stupid to disagree that they get paid way more for way less. I mean, that's just the nature of the industry, because not many people take those jobs. take those jobs. At least they didn't use to. I don't know how it is right now. But back when I did furry art, personally, so I feel like I'm in some position to answer this question. Back when I did League of Legends specifically furry stuff, it was basically a seller's market. This is an abomination that should not have been created. What is he gonna do? Why is he punching with a fist instead of scratching him with it? Never. Not for me to ask these questions. Is there gonna get lion ears or human? Oh my goodness, that's not a question to ask me. I'm just gonna do this and then you decide, okay? You decide what's happening in there. I gave him Shrek's ears by default. Let's do it like I'm just gonna paint over this a little bit because it's I've had it with it bothering me, right? It's too much. Also, Hotline Miami is a very, very good game. The soundtrack for that game is arguably one of my favorite soundtracks of any game of all time. I think it's one of the greatest soundtracks in on-demand. Did I put that stuff on all the time? I put it on stream multiple times as well. It's just quality. I can't think of another video game theme that I can just think of like in my head and think about it. I guess the Minecraft stuff by C418. I feel like everybody knows those. Let's go Outlaw Star in the ears and have them elongated elf cat ears. Cat. It's cat now. On the cat route. God, I don't know what's bothering me with this, but it's really bothering me. Maybe if I put some whiskers it'll be better. Nope, definitely worse. I know that your powers of redemption. Wet as a warthog's backside. Wasn't it retention? That would make more sense. I only when I first watched Lion King, I watched it in Hindi, so maybe not the desired effect right there. That was back when Hindi dubs were terrible as well. Or maybe I just didn't speak Hindi very well. One of the two. Is dipping into the same uncanny valley as a live-action cat movie? Dude, don't talk to me about that movie, alright? It's upsetting to me. This is like one of the worst things I've ever drawn, I feel like. I just drawn a full lion, basically. You know what I'm gonna do here? We need to do some surgery. Triggered? Okay, nobody talk about it. But it triggers Shay Shay. Loud. Just do this. Just for my personal sake. Okay, we gotta just do that. Right? I just can't. I can't not do that. Give it to me. Sometimes you just got it, you know? Sometimes you got it and sometimes you just don't. Tell me how to do that. Also, lions have pit hair, by the way. They got gnarly pit hair. They got some mondo pubes as well. But they got some gnarly pit hair as well, so go just draw that a little bit just to, you know, be proper to our source material. I think we're gonna Lion King movie the torch there. Probably not gonna show any of the anatomy. They also got weird elbow hair. They also got weird elbow hair. Well, I feel like this is a colossal failure. It does look better, right? That's why I did it, because it's bothering me. Let's do the wolf. The wolf is not. I'm not gonna fall into the same trick, okay? We're not gonna follow the same trick. I'm actually gonna change the local color, something that's not shitty. Can I get the perspective first? perspective right there. God bless having something to paint over. Right over there. Wolf noses, very forwardly placed. Lion noses are not forwardly placed. You want a quick anatomy tip when drawing lions? So think about the break in the forehead. For wolf, the break's like this, right? So you would draw it like this if you didn't study wolves, but it's not wrong. But this is more accurate. Gentle slope like that. That's how like a wolf break is, a really gentle slope. But it breaks once and twice like that, right? That's a very common, typical wolf break on the nose. So forehead down to nose, that's a break. But for a lion, it's a little bit different. They have really like oblong, kind of tablet shaped faces like that. So when it breaks for the lion, it does so in a few stages. So that's the eye right over there. That's like the eyebrow. So it'll break once. It'll break once down there. It'll go kind of slowly. It'll break again a little bit, I guess, to the nose. Because the nose is really bulbous for a lion. For all cats, they have a lot of mass on the nose, right? A lot of mass. So you want to represent that by breaking it up. So you don't go down here. You go down and you break again. You don't exaggerate the form. Then it goes into there. Just draw the rest of the line basically. Step 1, draw circles. 2, draw the rest of the line. That's how you kind of solve it really quickly. Pay some respect to the masses that are over there. I don't like it when I don't pay respect to them. Very, very big muscle. Gotta respect it. They're gonna draw the rest of the form. A big fundamental difference. So it's good to kind of keep this in mind because if you have a lion and a wolf on the page, you don't want them to look similar. So it's good to know the differences. Can I erase this? Oh, I can. Nice. Layers. PogChamp. All right, wolf. Wolf have a few breaks. Not just the top one, but these are smaller breaks in the form. They have a little bit of a cavity right there. That's where they get their cheekbone, the zygomatic bone, zygomatic arch area. Actually creates a little bit of a break in the form there on some of the wolves. Depends on the species particularly. So we can always use that little thing to kind of guide us a little bit. I usually break up my wolf face using that little shape right there, and then I usually draw. But I keep a little bit of it there because it's good to show the anatomy sometimes. There. Ooh, I don't want to do that. That's good. I want to indicate a plane shift. Still have a masseter, by the way. They still have a masseter muscle, that big chunky muscle. I always want to give some homage to it because it's a really large area of form. Also, the mouth on dogs, not as long as you think, man. I used to make this very, very big mistake, so I always highlight my own mistakes. Those are the big ones. The big one was made the mouth weight. Did you watch Love, Death and Robots? I did. I loved it. I'm assuming you can talk about that werewolf episode, right? How sick was that? But slowly but surely we're building up Wolfie right there. Break is not as high as you'd think. The actual head is a bit more low profile than what it is already. This way, and then we go into those beautiful, beautiful tip ears right there. That episode is incredible. That was a nice episode. I'll tell you, like the world building on that, they kept it super realistic, but then they amped those werewolves up, and I really liked that they were strong and super like visceral as well. Like it's so crazy how visceral that whole show was. Like when he got hit, for example, it wasn't just a blood stain. Like you could see the sinew of his muscle kind of like struggling to deal with the chunk missing out of his arm. It was so well done, like really, really well done stuff. Okay, wolf ears. I feel like I'm fucking up here. What does the ear look like from the front? Ear looks like this from the front. It goes like that. Tapers in and then it goes arch in. Am I doing that properly here? Not quite. Do it this way. We'll keep it generic. Of course, the most important thing you can never forget when you draw an animal, when you draw a wolf, when you draw anything, remember that they got a shit ton of fur to deal with, right? And now he looks like he has the Arab headgear on in the shape of a wolf. I'll solve that in a second. It's really good. My favorite episode, I think I like the first one the best. Sunny's Edge, I think that's fantastic. Other one would be Beyond the Aquila Rift, fantastic stuff. Really, really good. That was the one with the creepy boob alien at the end. Fantastic stuff. Anthony Jones, one of the artists that I talk about all the time on my Twitch channel, he did a lot of art for that. Actually, a lot of my favorite artists did actually. Big fan of it. Everybody had a different order of episodes? Yeah, I know that. I remember that. Like some weird meta commentary shit I'm drawing right now. It is funny though. I mean, it's interesting. It's also a good challenge to draw animals in different perspectives. I need to brush up on my wolf ears. Not particularly sold on the way they are right now. You know what? I think what it is, they place too further back on the face, maybe? On the head? Could be it. Something is like breaking. It could be this, you know, they don't stick up from the form. I've drawn lions way more than I've drawn wolves, by the way, if that wasn't excessively clear. I'm gonna just do the same treatment over here. Beef this guy's head up. Oh, actually, I need some underlying structure there. Animal minotaurs. Cool. Yeah, but that production hired a lot of artists that I'm familiar with, and I'm very glad that they did. When artists get jobs, I wanna be an artist that gets jobs. Like when somebody gets something that you want, you can deal with it in a couple of ways, right? Number one is you can be jealous and be bitter about that it wasn't you, but other ways that you can be kind of happy, you know, because it just proves that it's possible. I feel like that's something I always think about. Like it's possible. Like I'm happy that it is possible. But probably if it was direct kind of like competition, like if they got it instead of me, I'd probably sing a different tune. In general, I don't get too mad about that kind of. Like when I see like Twitch artists that hit it really big and a bunch of donations and stuff. I'm not talking about like people that I know personally. I'm talking about people that hit like 4K, 5K viewers, like Daft for example. But that sort of stuff just makes me kind of happy because it is indeed possible. But I've heard people sing a different tune about that. Let me tell you. But to each their own, you know. Choose how you interpret. Can I suggest something? Go ahead, man. Just away. Always suggest something. That was fun. My goodness, this is haunting. So here, doggo? Yeah, that is my dog. Hearing my dad come back home. He's very, very needy. He was never this needy when I left home, you know? My parents have like, I think they just took them on as surrogate children after me and my brother left. The black strokes come in the way of realistic rendering. I know, but it's a very quick way of kind of showing my design, which is why I'm putting them in. I'm not particularly going, like I did it two ways, right? For this one, I kept a lot of the realism in there. I kept the strokes at kind of the minimum. But I think that I could think more about design if I could see my line work, which is why I'm doing it that way. But it's a valid point, right? If I wanted to make this a finished painting. But you see, like all of these have very, very like fat, distinct lines, just because I want to see what I'm doing. But yeah, definitely a good point. Just cool. It was good to point out. I always say that when people point out stuff in the chat. I mean, I'm not necessarily wrong at all. Armor on the back show gymnast, I think is amazing. Dude, I like drawing armor from the back. I've done it not that much in my experience because I usually draw armor from the front. But when I get a design back armor, it's a lot of fun. This is my favorite one over here. I love the colors on it. Of course, she's from Brazil. I mean, what gave it away? Right, that's about all I'm gonna do for this, I think. Probably gonna jump off stream as well. Just a quick one, get myself back into it. Quick little 2-hour stream right there. Had a lot of fun. Probably post a compilation of these to the Instagram maybe. I'm probably gonna start stream way earlier tomorrow, and we get some actual solid painting out of the way. But this is just transitioning myself back into stream. Usually I go on for a lot much longer, but yeah, it's been a while. It's been off. You off? Yeah, I will be off right now. I'm really hungry, and I actually sleep. Since I've been working so much, I've been sleeping really consistently. I technically 2 hours from now, so I have work to do. Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks for hanging out on this. We'll probably start a lot earlier tomorrow, but always enjoy it. Out there. Looking at the 50 head med challenge, killing me, dude. Make sure you sleep. Work more effective when you sleep. Right, Angevir. Even for the what's it called, the thing zoo submission, they gave me 50 hours to work. I worked 25 of those 50 hours. Didn't work all of them. Over 50 hours. So 2 days. Introduce you guys if you do not know her already. Yeah, I had a lovely time singing for you people. Hopefully I will catch you tomorrow for a much longer stream. If I do not have a wonderful week, painting shortly, probably today a little bit more, gonna work tomorrow. This was just a fun thing to do on stream. Just hit the little button, and get on here. It was fun. What's reading? It's when I take you to a different channel and I take everybody with me to kind of promote more artists. Alright, see you later, guys. I'll catch you tomorrow for some more streams. We will be going back to our daily streaming schedule. Fun. But yeah, I'll catch you later. Thanks for the support. Hit the button, but it ain't working. Working. Oh, there we go. Dude.